Chapter 13 Serve and Obey. Erix left Nazar having informed everyone of his departure, and how Aura had accompanied him to keep their mind at ease, knowing how much of a chaos it would cause when he suddenly disappeared without warning. He met with Mare and Maiko, who were working on putting illusion magic and other protection spells to ensure that Nazar remained hidden until he was prepared to confront every nation. Venturing through the forest allowed Erix to see more of the forest beauty where verdant grass and lush trees could be seen. The fresh air that he inhaled was invigorating and made his blood boil in excitement. Erix noticed how easy it was riding the Soul Leader, since he never rode a real horse, not to mention his mount was skeleton, yet it doesn't feel uncomfortable. He pondered his plan on transforming the whole forest into a kingdom, which meant he had to sacrifice the trees. Fortunately, he wasn't a tree-loving person, and merely wanted to avoid a modern world where people remain weak and entitled, as well as destroying the beauty of the natural world. Erix and Aura had a little small talk along the way with Rigurd and Rigor sharing their thoughts about his plans. It only took them a few minutes to soon arrive at a crumbling and pathetic-looking village, where goblins were at the front ready to confront them, but Rigurd went to talk to them and informed them about the situation. Their eyes lit and immediately kowtow, pressing their head hard on the ground. Be at ease, now that you're under my command then I shall treat you fairly, however, a single thought of betrayal is unforgivable. We understood. Rigurd was smiling and showed them around where Erix rubbed his chin looking at the village state and the goblin who appeared frail and pathetic. He looked at the moon and heard a howl in the distance, as Erix was surprised that the event would be this early when he had just arrived. It appears that we have company. What would you like me to do, my lord? Aura asked to be of use to Erix. Capture them, kill those who refuse to comply. He commanded Aura, who had her eyes shimmer and bowed in delight. It will be done, Lord Erix. She hopped on Fen, leaving Erix alone with the goblin, as he formed a throne to sit upon, while Aaron and Amate transformed into their human form. Rigurd and Rigor along with the other goblins were a bit surprised upon seeing them, but couldn't ask when Erix spoke. Rigor, gather all the goblin and count how many they are as I wish to name them. I'll pick around 8 individuals that I believe will become strong. Erix wanted to check if he can change their race using his magic and form his own 8 demon general like from Monster. They would be people who lead his army, since the floor guardians are needed for Nazar, and if they died, then it would be a huge loss, while native of this world can easily be replaced. Though, it doesn't mean his floor guardian won't be a fighter, rather he prefers to have something that he can use as a disposable bishop, rook, and knight. Kindness is a luxury that he can't afford to give everyone. Erix rested his face on his knuckle as he waited for Rigor and Rigor to gather everyone. You enjoy acting like a proper leader, don't you? Amate teases him while he freely chuckles and said. Why would I answer something you already know? I just like teasing you. Though, your action is appropriate especially when you aim to conquer the world. Erix believed that a person should be ambitious and a monster that has complete control over themselves. Aaron, can you scan them and find suitable candidates for my experiment? She nodded looking at the goblin as they gathered a few minutes later, and Aura returning with the direwolf who were docile, immediately lined up and submitted themselves sensing the danger from Erix. Nicely done, or how did it go? It was easy, they all complied beside their leader that I unfortunately killed. Though I brought the corpse single, I thought it would be useful. Aura brought out a corpse from a pocket dimension inventory, while Erix looked down at the corpse and smiled. Thank you, Aura. Feel free to state your any request. Erix said while Aura shook her head and said. Serving you is enough payment, my lord. That will not do. Then can I save it for later? Erix nodded and turned his attention to the corpse, then to Wolf who whimpered and decided to test something. The other spectators were watching curiously at their soon-to-be master and witnessed something unbelievable. Well then, create Cerberus, and from this day onward you shall be known as Cabir, serve and obey. Soon a magical circle forms around the corpse, and a dark viscous tar-like substance attaches itself into the corpse, where it began to grow like a symbiote until it took shape and revealed an enormous dark wolf that had 3 heads. With bristles as black as darkness, his shoulders stand at about 4 meters. Near the neck grows countless snake heads spitting fire and poison. The tail has become strangely reminiscent of a dragon's tail. With the number of heads, large body, snakes on his neck, and serpent-like tail, he might look a little scary, but in fact he acts like a friendly dog. The black bristles are soft and fluffy, and feel very good. Oh, I was going for Cerberus, but to think I got the jackpot and gained Inferno Cerberus lore. Erix is said to have rare variants of Cerberus that are stronger than normal Cerberus that typically lead others, and basically an alpha. He grinned at what he had gained and watched as the monster bowed down. I, Cabir, await your command. He was a bit surprised that he was able to speak and said. You can speak. Do you remember anything before I called you? Yes, my lord, but I do not have any regret nor hatred towards you, as it is normal for the weak to die by the hand of the strong. Erix seemed pleased at it and nodded. If that is the case, then I am looking at your contribution. Erix finished talking and turned his attention to everyone looking at Rigurd and Rigor. Is this all? Yes, these are all the goblins in our village. Is there any other village like yours? There is. Why do you ask, my lord? Because it's best if they join as well. Rigurd, you'll be the one who will organize them. His sparkled when he heard that others would join them, unaware that Erix saw it to be a golden opportunity to gain new pawns. He cried tears of joy while Erix chuckled and said, "Enough, let's get down to business." Erix spoke and sat properly, resting both of his arms in the throne's armchair, and forced everyone to kneel down. "My name is Erix Khan, the Crimson Monarch, and I am here to announce that I chose this land to begin my plan for world domination. For the goblin, I have acquired Rigurd's servitude, and claim each and every last of you to be under my rule, therefore shall obey my orders." They all listened to him and didn't mind being under someone this powerful, since the weak should always follow the strong. "You shall listen to my every command, and any side of betrayal shall be dealt with." They all shuddered in fear when his last tone almost made them pass out. "From this day forth shall serve me and under my banner. I shall give to you prosperity and life unlike any other." The pressure vanished as they felt their stirred and looked at him. "What do you say?" They all look at each other before cheering. "Long live, Lord Erix. We shall serve and obey, from now on." They all sat, making Erix smile, and said, "Then, I shall bless you with name. Line up, including the direwolf." The goblins shone in excitement while Erix began naming each and every one of them, where he could feel his power slightly depleted, but it quickly returned soon after, and continued before meeting a certain goblina. "This girl, she's the perfect choice." Chapter 14. 8 Demon General. Staring at the goblina before him, began to think hard on how to handle the situation, since she looked exactly like me from Monster, and perfect for his test according to Aaron. He was wrecking his mind trying to come up with a name, since she had been called by many names, and couldn't decide on what to do. Erix decided to use her latest name that was easier to remember, since Mi's true name was rarely used, and would be difficult to remember. "You are a perfect candidate for something that I wish to test. Prepare yourself." The goblina didn't say anything and waited until she heard him say create true vampire. In that moment her body was enveloped in thick magical power, and her body growing into a young woman with clearly charming body, with a narrow waist accentuated by her breasts, whose size would overflow in your hands, a moon-like beautiful face more fleeting than an elf's, glittering silver hair that flowed down to her waist, fine skin, and finally, red eyes with golden pupils. Erix made sure to form clothes for her that was blue and white dress made with dark magic, and bound together with steel-like thread. He also gave her some glasses for aesthetics. Another variant as expected. He is thought to have gained a ice blood true vampire that is like Sheltier, but resides in the coldest region of Yggdrasil, and has the highest proficiency in ice magic and skill. He believed that she gained an unique skill Absolute Zero, that freezes every part within seconds, according to Aaron. Everyone in Nazar also gains unique skill after he connected to the world when they were detected by the voice of the world, and ponders when they'll gain ultimate skill, but that could wait later. From day forth, you shall be known as Konami. A sound of clicking as if the final piece was placed, suddenly released a wave of magical energy, and watched as she looked up, looking at her flawless white skin, cherry lips, soft and well-proportioned body, and immaculate long hair. They can fascinate onlookers without using bewitching eyes or charm. She had a bewitching charm around her that enticed anyone, like how the other goblins were affected, but Erix dispelled it and heard her speak. "I have received your blessing and devote my body, mind and soul to the Supreme One. I shall take the name of Konami with pride and honor." Her voice was extremely erotic and similar to Sheltier, but the only difference was that one was cold and the other was dominating. "I am pleased to hear that, and I shall appoint you as the leader and overseer of 8 demon generals." Konami wholeheartedly accepts it, having gained the demeanor and skills to lead. Eventually, he made the other members amazed at their prowess, sensing their magic heals. 1. Konami, Ice Blood True Vampire. 2. Minakichi, Hell Minotaur Lord. 3. Asu, Terror Demon Lord. 4. Gurisato, Blood Raid Empress. 5. Supase, Spirition Queen. 6. Ifu, Adelheid. 7. Kujum, 9 Divination Demon Princess. 8. Seiji, Sereneness King. They all kneel down at him, and please see them deciding to use them for the future when he visits the ogre, but he needs to wait until the Orc Lord raids them. If I help them in a dire situation, then they won't be able to accept our help, which in turn will submit them to me. In addition, it helps me properly gauge their strength compared to us. Erix won't act unless it ensures it will benefit him, and if he were to offer this help to the ogre, then they would refuse and result in needing a better approach that makes them desperate to ensure they understand their power. There's still a few weeks or so, maybe a month, until the ogre village is attacked. Erix thought to himself, then turned to Aaron and said, "Aaron, can I plunder the skill of Predator?" "They can, but the Orc Lord won't boost the concluded, be it at which hour they devour them. It's best to let Remur take the Orc Lord, since you can then copy Gluttony, which would allow my sister to turn it into an ultimate skill." Erix rubbed his chin and nodded at them before turning his attention to the hobgoblin that grew significantly larger than before, appearing more human-like while looking at him with reverence. "Now that all has grown stronger, I wish to begin our plan by improving this place. I shall provide individuals who will help teach on how to begin building. Rigord, you go and command them, while 8 demon generals shall train under tutelage of Cocytus. They didn't refute and accepted their task with Erix, believing that it won't take that long, until they are able to form a large build, since he can terraform the place to be a fitting territory. Once everything was done, Erix headed back home using the gate and let them rest before celebrating the event the next day. But 2 weeks later, everything was progressing nicely where Erix acquired enough understanding of the surroundings, with the help of Gibril, who used the 7-phase view that made the map identical to Central Axis world, that he knew where the continents were in the right place. She noted on erases that showed danger like the ice continent, that was to be expected because Velzard, who likely sensed them, wasn't acting since Erix technically her younger sibling after his evolution. Erix learns that there are also other dimensions like the demon world, heaven world and spirit world, though they are more like a mass of ethereal energy that has sentience like the warp from Warhammer 40k. He noted about it, and Erix discovered something which was a tunnel that he calls dimensional rift that connects other worlds. Erix was surprised that the 7-phase view was able to do it, but found that those worlds are just Earth-like and quite weak from what he was able to gauge. It would likely be destroyed if he were to visit and release his energy. He decided to visit when he was just chilling and put it aside, concentrating in the world he was in. The main continent, otherwise called the Magic Continent, was massive land that was around 2x times the size of Pangaea, that was told by the world, or rather Genesis class item. Erix spread the knowledge to every guardian to better understand what they are dealing with, and Demiurge helped in forming more plans, while Albedo works on the newly acquired 8 demon general, and Hobgoblin, who she accepted, since they all showed their devotion through action, but disliked the sight of Konami, Eren and Amir, who'd been intimate with her darling. On the other hand, Sheltier got along with Konami quite well, acting similar to a sister that pleased Erix when he saw them train. The other demon generals were trained by Cocytus, since he is the most battle-hardened and warrior-minded among all them, who was fond of Minakichi and Asue, seeing that the two had great potential. There also Gopta, who despised his appearance, is extremely adept and talented. Erix made groups that specialized in different categories like healers, tank, mage, support and other roles, to begin their town creation. Only 2 weeks had passed, yet their growth was exponential, acquiring blacksmith with the help of racial traits, and books that he provided from the library that were easily learned by the Hobgoblin. Rigord and Rigor had gathered nearly all of the goblins, adding them to their military strength. The village appeared like a town, having used magic and everything to finish them. At present, Erix was in office and appeared more human-like without his horns and halo-like crown, as well as having his hair shorter. He decided to have a concealed state to help blend in and hide his strength, but still showed an imposing presence. I need to visit them soon. Gaining Cajun and maybe Vesta would be a great help, as well as brainwashing the king while I'm at it, but I need to be careful. He thought to himself, looking at the file. Then Erix suddenly sensed something looking somewhere, and gave an evil grin, and immediately stood up and teleported somewhere. He was soon greeted by the trees, then looked down, finding a small blob, and grin. To think someone actually managed to take out Veldora and a slime, no less. Chapter 15 Slime. Erix stared at the slime, who were looking at him rather oddly, noticing the subtle change in the magic heals. He wondered if this person was a man or a woman, since it would be nice if Rimura was a woman. Though in the canon Rimura was genderless and merely sees itself as a man due to his previous memory. He immediately brainwashed Rimura regardless if he was man or woman to ensure that he has favorable in its eyes, along with plundering his skill. The condition of his skill is that in order to copy a skill, that skill owner should have a deep connection to him, or if he dominates his opponent, meaning it won't work against stronger individuals unless they have deep connection, even if it's hatred or trust. Erix is able to copy those from his subordinate, then synthesize it if he desires, but decides not to overwhelm himself and build a foundation to ensure solid ground. He kneels down, and despite brainwashing him, showed kindness, since he's not that heartless nor cruel, unless they are labeled as enemies. He's not a psychopath and more of a sociopath who is more calculative. Erix's end goal is to gain strength and fulfill his desire for adventure, while also protecting those important to him, even how it sounds. How the scan. Is Rimura male or female? Fortunately, Rimura is a lady. Do they wish for us to make it a suitable body for her? Erix a bit taken aback, pondering if she still has predator skill, since he wanted to gain gluttony in the future. Later, for now let's talk to her. Erix smiled at the news that Rimura was a woman and knelt down as he wondered if Veldora was able to sense him under his concealed state. In this form, he is unable to use Dragon Hockey at its highest level, and only a fraction of it. No need to be afraid, tell me, little slime, someone as powerful as you should have a name. He said in a gentle manner while Rimura was still startled upon meeting something who made her feel scared. Even the monster that she killed couldn't compare to him. It was the great sage that warned her not to fight. I'm Rimura Tempest and I was just about to leave. Rimura was too scared to fight something this strong, while Erix understood that it would be discouraged when she meets someone this powerful. He was a true dragon even in concealed state would shake the entirety of a weak universe like Earth, since they are not strengthened by magicule. The central axis world was vastly different, and a simple paper would be as strong as the strongest material within Earth. That is why Otherworlder would die either from having been transported in a dangerous place, or from the pressure from the travel and the dense magicule poisoning them. There are 3 types of Otherworlder: summoned, stray and reincarnator. Summoned are the most common type of Otherworlder, brought over through summoning rituals. In the process of crossing worlds, the summoned is exposed to a large concentration of magicules dense enough to kill any normal human. Only those that bear a strong soul and mind can endure the strain of the journey. From the massive energy taken in by the summoned, unique skills and other special abilities are born as a response to their desires. With these mouth-watering powers, and a strong body that no human can achieve without undergoing grueling training, Otherworlders became highly sought after by human nations to serve as a weapon against monsters, and are also employed as bodyguards for nobles and royalty. For this reason, a locking curse is placed on the soul of the summoned to prevent them from fleeing. There are very few nations capable of summoning Otherworlders, due to the sheer costs and level of preparation involved. Even meeting the ideal conditions for a proper summoning, the chances of successfully calling an Otherworlder is less than 1%. There's also an inconvenient cooldown in place that prevented the ritual from being performed continuously in quick succession. Due to knowledge circulated by Leon Cromwell, however, a less strict and simplified variant of the summoning ritual was eventually born. While the success rate remained low, it could be used continuously with a reduced cooldown period, but the consequences were that it often resulted in the summoning of children. These children usually had no skills and were left with only their vast magical energy, which, having failed to be converted to skills, would eventually destroy their bodies within 5 years. The next was the Otherworlder transported by accident, unofficially known as strays, or Otherworlders that arrive by sheer accident. There is no clear cause or pattern known for why this happens, but in general, it's considered a one-way street, and the phenomenon is not known to happen in reverse. Strays are drawn to the central world through dimensional cracks that spontaneously open in other worlds, drawing in any unfortunate passerbys. They don't get called to fixed locations like summoned and can appear virtually anywhere, including dangerous environments depending on their luck. If they manage to survive whatever dangerous predicament they may face, they can live however they please without worrying about being enslaved. Since there is no strict standard for who can cross over, strays tend to be on the weaker side, compared to other types of Otherworlders. And finally, where the only who experienced it was the being before him, reincarnator or transmigrant, refers to individuals that arrive with no body and just their mind, being reborn as an inhabitant of the central world. Reincarnation tends to happen randomly. Although there are those among the reincarnated who still remember their past life, to have reincarnated from a different world is exceedingly rare. Moreover, one would normally be reincarnated as a human. For someone to be reincarnated as a monster, and from magical energy itself, was something that remained unheard of. This is what Erix remembers when reading this story. In other words, even the weakest individual within the central axis going to Earth would already be an international level threat. However, Erix only considers this within the point of how he interpreted the series, and plans on finding a universe that doesn't have intelligent life to test it, since he doesn't choose a homicidal act if it doesn't gain him anything. It would be a waste of universe if he destroyed it, instead of reaping it and turning it into his vassal under his banner. Erix laughed when Rimuru wanted to escape and said, "No need to leave, my name is Erix, the Crimson Monarch, and it is nice to meet you, Rimuru Tempest. Come with me since I know you're not from here, and your astral and spiritual body does not match your current form." Rimuru was taken aback while Erix, with his ultimate skill that sees through falsehood and deception, gives him the answer that he needs. The slime was anxious since she knows that Erix seems dangerous like how he saw Voldor, but the Tempest Dragon was different, yet she decided to accept, since she can't judge him based on what the first impression gives. "Alright, I'll come with you. Erix." Rimuru gave up while Erix smiled and grabbed her, surprising the slime, and Erix used Gated to appear at the entrance of the town that they've built. The Hobgoblin worked together with Golem that summoned Hobgoblin images for manpower that made everything much easier. There were surrounding walls that were created using earth magic with an overall size of several hundred meters, and houses that were perfect for people. Erix had used some trash items that were just for decoration, but had been useful in the creation of the town. Rimuru saw the Hobgoblin noticing their action and greeting Erix with utmost respect, showing a wide smile as all were working hard. No one was loitering, and taking every moment to work, even resting, is part of it. Erix has a strict command when they work, and that is not to push themselves, since it would be disheartening if they suddenly collapse. Everyone was so grateful for Erix that they didn't even think of disappointing him and working with the intent of repaying him. "Greetings, Lord Erix." He met with a Sue who was not a lover of Minakichi like the canon, and was currently helping with the construction of several places like watchtowers, that also would create a powerful defensive barrier across the plains like tower signals. She's huge. This was Remuer's thought when he looked at Asu. It was a towering beast with a well-toned body that had dense muscles perfect for hard labor. Asu saw her lord and noticed the aura released by the slime that would have terrified everyone if it weren't for their higher power. Hello, Asu, I'm just here to show this little slime I found around our town. Inform the 8 other demon general, floor guardian, rigger and rigger, as well as the Gibril using link call and gather at the conference hall at my mansion around the afternoon. Copy that, my lord. Have you named it, my lord? Hi, my name is Remuer Tempest. Thank you for having me in this town. Oh my, it can talk and almost thought it was a wild monster. Call me Asu and welcome to our town. Anyway, I'll go ahead and do what you task for me. See you around, Remuer. And oh, before I forgot, you should hide that aura energy you're releasing. Erix flinched, realizing that Remuer did release an aura, but he only thought it was normal since for him, it was too weak to notice, while Remuer confused what she meant. I didn't even notice, but she's right, you're releasing a powerful aura that might be too noticeable of someone who is too weak. Try asking your skill on how to fix it. Wait, how did you know about my skill? My skill can see through falsehood and appraise someone that gives me their skill and status. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone. Just try to hide it. Later, I'll give you a body to use. Wait, what really? Yeah, I think your slime form is great, but I know you would like the ability to eat and taste again, right? Oh yes. Thank you. You're welcome. Now let's continue. We can talk about things about your world. Chapter 16 Remuer Tempest. It was unbelievable that within a span of 2 weeks the Hobgoblin was able to create the large town that was several kilometers away. However, this was a combination of magic and hard labor of monsters that had better strength and coordination than humans. Erix showed Remuer around, enjoying his conversation with the young slime, asking questions in regards to her previous life. The last thing I remember was dying after I was run over by a truck. Oh, Truck Khan got you? Erix joked while Remuer giggled knowing his joke and said, how about you, Erix? As you can see, I am to be sovereign starting in this place. My goal is to build an empire under my name. Erix answered, hiding that his true goal was to conquer them and make them submit under his banner. Though, he wouldn't be too greedy and take everything since places like Luminous ruled over taking her into his harem, and in turn gain her kingdom. Remuer looked at him with admiration, looking at the smiling faces of the Hobgoblin, and how coming it was. They all appeared to love and respect Erix, while the others did the same. Every single one of them were indebted to Erix, which they saw as their guardian and protector. I think you're doing great leading these people. They all seem genuinely happy and respect you. Indeed, however, as future ruler, I'll be cruel against my enemies and slaughter them mercilessly if they dared harm my people within my domain. Erix firmly said, trying to show that his worldview and way of thinking is different from her since she lived in modern society and would have difficulty accepting the natural law of survival of the fittest. Though, it still exists in the modern era through competition that is either a title or a job along with recognition. It is just less violent and upfront than before. I somewhat understand using my own standard in a completely different world would not work. And I also would do the same if I were in your position. Erix knew her naive thought had led to his subordinates to be killed like Xion because of Remuer. Though, it did lead to the best moment in the series that changed Remuer's core character. I'm impressed. I've seen Otherworlder who are naive and foolish or self-righteous fools. Thankfully you're not one of them. Here called characters like Kaki from Arifureta and Minami Asagi from Death Mage, who keep blabbering about their own view on what is evil and what is good. Erix eager to know what it would be like showing them that their way would only lead others to their demise. He isn't saying his way was better, rather he knows when to accept things as is. Otherworlder Doc, can you tell me more about Otherworlders? Remuer showed interest, wanting to know if there would be people like her in the new world, while Erix nodded, telling her about it. He had already sent spy on the other countries, ensuring that they wouldn't be detected, and gathered enough information to gain a proper outline with certain events in each country. It was easy to bribe and manipulate people, especially underground organizations that would do anything for the right price. Erix's biggest problem is that web novel and light novel Tensura have completely different content that it was difficult to determine which one would be the world timeline. There are many cat differences in the web and light novel, with the biggest one is the supposed final boss that was Yuki Kagurazaka, who wasn't a petty edgy boy from the web novel, and more interesting in the light novel. Erix decided to wait until things are cleared until he takes a leap. That's all I know. Erix finds it pleasant to know there are certain Otherworlder that are from real monsters like Samurai Hero and Insect. He aims to acquire them and let the true hero seed to flourish until he can reap their skill. An evil smile came to him, eager to make them fall into his hands and force them to submit to his will. He already set his eyes on a few individuals, especially the few things that came from real monsters like dungeons and small kingdoms. The dungeons are called Age of Gods Dungeon, and are ranked from demigods, gods and great gods made by Veldanava, with the help of Ramers, who was aiming to make individuals grow stronger. Erix wondered why Velda would do something like that, and knew that there was a reason for it, most likely an enemy that soon arrived, letting them prepare until then. With this information, he had thought that this world was neither canon, instead, an amalgamation of Monster and Tensura with most likely more. The dungeon serves as a way for potential heroes and individuals to grow. He knows that Rudra, Baldora and those who had been in the Central Axis world since the beginning knew about Veldanava's plan. I'll check those places and see how difficult those dungeons are. Erix aims to create his own and gain all of the dungeon bosses from the canon. There are also naturally generated dungeons that are condensed magicule that form dungeons, but they are a lot weaker compared to the Age of God dungeon. There are only 5 Great Gods dungeons across the Central Axis world, and the difficulty makes even S rank appear F rank inside the dungeon of the harsh environment and monster. However, whoever conquers it would become a true hero or even great true hero. Erix understands the power level of this world is vastly different, and the laws of the world have been greatly changed, but this only fuels his excitement to grow stronger. I see, I hope I can meet them. Do you miss your previous life? Erix asked randomly. If anyone asks him, then the answer would be sort of, he miss his parents, but that's all there is to it. He lived to survive and prosper, but Erix was not happy at the condition of his world. Sure, he had been successful with his investment in business, but in the end everything was a means to an end, and almost being happy struggling, then overcoming obstacles that made him feel alive. Like the old saying goes, hard times create strong men create good times create weak men create hard times. This might be the reason why he likes the Scarlet King core character, who is the conflict between the modern times and world of strife. I don't know, I've lived a mundane life where I sleep, eat, work, then repeat the cycle all over again. Perhaps it's because I'm reborn that I don't feel any sentiment nor attachment to my old world. Then are you happy? She paused for a moment thinking about how to respond and said, I don't know. Honestly, I'm lost on what to do from now on. Erix somewhat understands since he was at a loss when he came into his old world receiving his other memories. There was once a purpose when he had his parents, but the moment they died made his life meaningless until finding Yggdrasil. Take your time. People often find themselves lost in the road of life, but you'll eventually find your answer. Maybe you can stay here and I'll provide you a home in exchange for you working for me. That doesn't sound like a bad offer. Like I said earlier, I'll give you a body, but don't worry, it won't be alive nor a living person. I think homunculus would suffice. Homunculus. Yeah, let's do it now since it would be great if you were able to taste food, right? Really, like right now? Sure. I have my ways, why wouldn't I do it? Erix obviously was not doing this out of kindness, and merely wanted to make her feel indebted to him. In addition, he'll have another ally for him to reap and gain more power. Though, if time goes on, would treat her like a queen once he feels affectionate to her, and vice versa. Thank you. Her voice was adorable, and if she had a body then she would be blushing, while Erix nodded, taking her in a secluded place that was in the mountains that oversee the town, and place her down, before creating a homunculus human body that didn't have any figure just yet. Take this body and it will form into what most suited you. I know slime can shapeshift and take the form that they devoured. Vermeer looked at the body that was figureless like a female mannequin before consuming it, and gradually taking shape, as he watched it from turning into a female adult version of Shizuka, but was well endowed in some areas, and instead of genderless, she seemed female. Her long blue hair and creamy white skin made her unbelievably beautiful, on par with albedo. How do you feel? Erix asks, looking at her, and before she could say anything shriek upon realizing that she was naked. The Ick turned around. I'm naked, see, can you give me some clothes please?